You're listening to Learning How to Live, the podcast about what happens after you wake up from the life you were told to want. I'm Quinn Stainfield-Bruce, and 6 years ago my best attempt at life had failed. Now I'm learning how to rebuild work, love, health, and self-worth, and I'm inviting you to learn alongside me. Let's get into it. Welcome back to episode 7. Honesty is a superpower and how to apply it in your life. This is something very, very close to my heart. I think if I am an expert on anything, it is honesty. And it is how honesty plays its part in our lives. I think I am an expert through hard fought experience in what happens when we apply honesty to every aspect of our lives, whether it be romantic relationships, work, family, parents. But the kicker, the main thing that I feel I am an expert in is self-honesty and the willingness to be honest with myself, the humility to admit the blind spots that I have. And it's through that humility and willingness that I have over time been able, with the help of others, excavate what really goes on under the surface from a heart and from a mind perspective, from thoughts, from feelings, and how those things influence all of my behaviors, and how, if I am oblivious to those feelings, if I cannot be honest with myself, how it means I'm not in control. I'm not in the driving seat. I have no ability to pause before reacting to circumstances and situations. I am effectively acting from impulse. I am no better than an animal. I am just following my nose, following my impulses. And that, for me anyway, has created a lot of problems and a lot of drama, a lot of bad decisions, a lot of consequences, So I choose, to the best of my ability, to practice honesty, because the alternative generally is me acting a little crazy. Okay. I have a lot to say on this. It may not even all be covered in this episode, but let's give it a go. Why do we lie? We lie because we're afraid. It's no more complicated than that. I don't have a lot of time for anyone who justifies a white lie. I don't also personally believe in lying for the greater good. I think that assumes that we somehow know more than we should. I mean, I don't necessarily need to get spiritual about this, but if we think by lying for the greater good that is for the best, then we are assuming that we somehow know all of the inner workings of the universe. And I just don't think it's true. And I'll tell you why I don't think it's true, because you can debunk the idea that there is a greater good on the basis that the reason why one lies in the first place is because of fear. Let's take the old classic when they talk about when one's pregnant wife asks the husband, "Do I look fat in this dress?" And the husband says, "No, you look beautiful." A little white lie, doesn't want to hurt feelings, etc., etc. Well, why? Why? Why did he lie? What was he afraid of was going to happen? By saying, and why would it have to be something negative? You say, "Darling, you look pregnant and beautiful and wonderful, but yes, the dress is a little tight." I mean, what's so wrong with that? So what is the fear that compels the lie? Well, I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to upset her. Okay. Why? What happens if you were to do that? Well, there might be a fight. She might not leave the house on time. We might be late to see my parents. Making all of this up, of course. Okay. Then what happens? Oh, well, then my parents think I'm irresponsible, and she's going to be in a bad mood, and then she's not going to like me, and then I'm going to have to deal with tempers and arguments and fights, and I just it's just easier if I just lie. Okay, maybe in the very short term that is true. Maybe it would be easier to just lie. But what is one really robbing oneself of? What is this hypothetical gentleman robbing himself of? What he's robbing himself of is the opportunity for intimacy, for trust, to actually be there for his wife, to actually support her, to actually just be present and honest. Because in the question, do I look fat in this? Well, why is she asking that? What's she feeling right now? And we can assume maybe she's feeling insecure. Maybe she's feeling insecure that she's not attractive to her husband anymore. I mean, I'm assuming if she's asking, do I look fat in this, it's because she's worried about how she looks. And why would she be worried about her looks? Well, I'm assuming it would be because she doesn't want to be not attractive to her husband. Why would she be worried about that? What might she be worried about is going to happen? That he's going to see her as pregnant and fat, and therefore I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm going to have an affair. Yeah. And as ridiculous as that might sound, in my experience of working with numbers of people in all sorts of different capacities, the fears do come down to, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable. Or maybe in the case of attachment styles, it does mean that, the fear is that I am going to be left. So what would the husband actually have the opportunity to do in this instance? Well, the husband could turn around and say, not even answer the question. You say, my darling, you look beautiful. How are you feeling right now? How are you? And give her the space. Give her the space to communicate honestly. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling unattractive. Right. What are you worried about? I'm worried about you might leave me. I'm worried I'm not enough. Well, now we're having an intimate conversation. Now he has the opportunity to reassure her. And he might say, I'm worried I'm not enough for you. I'm worried that maybe my career isn't going the way it should do, or that our house isn't big enough. I'm worried that I'm disappointing you. And she gets to say, no, I thought I was disappointing you. And they get to come together in that moment, and they get to hold each other. They get to be vulnerable together. And this is how trust is built. This is how intimacy is built. So even in the case of a little white lie being done for the greater good, it's still being told out of fear. And in acting on fear, the greatest crime is what the honesty is what honesty would have given the couple if they were brave enough to be vulnerable, to not make it about them. But the fear robs them of that. Robs them of that opportunity for intimacy. It robs them of that opportunity for trust. And we're talking a little white lie here. We're talking the okay lies. Every other time we're dishonest, it is from a place of fear. Every time we lie, it's from a place of fear. It's something we're afraid of will happen if we tell the truth. And sometimes those fears can be justified. I mean, what if it's something on a real extreme scale? What if it's like, if I tell the truth, I might go to jail. I might be in real trouble if I tell the truth about this thing, okay? But what's life like living in dishonesty? But also, where's the opportunity for freedom? The opportunity for freedom from the fear, is in the courageousness of taking responsibility for the actions. So even on an extreme scale like that, there is potential beauty and potential goodness that one is robbing themselves from by not being honest. But the big thing that I've touched on, the biggest gift of honesty is trust. The biggest gift is real trust. I didn't grow up feeling particularly safe growing up. I didn't form very deeply trusting relationships. I never really knew what trust was, but trust is the sensation of safety. It is a sensation of feeling held. And it comes from the formula that I like to talk about, is that in being honest and being vulnerable, you give someone the opportunity to hold you. They then have the opportunity to be vulnerable back, and you have the opportunity to hold them. In doing so, you start to create layers of trust, that sensation of safety, that sensation of feeling held. Now, that comes from honesty. You can't have it without it. You can't build trust without honesty. You can't feel safe without honesty. But if we're not feeling safe, then we're feeling under threat. And science will tell us that if we as a species are under threat, our bodies go into an automatic response. They go into either fight, flight, or freeze. Our parasympathetic nervous system reacts in order to protect ourselves. And this comes from us being animals and having to protect ourselves if a predator leapt out of a bush somewhere, and, saber-toothed tiger or whatever, a lion, and we would have to instantly react. We'd have to instantly react in order to survive. The thing is, this survival mechanism is still here today, even though 99.9% of the time we're in fact not under threat. So if we're not feeling safe, it means we're in fear. And if we're in fear, it means we are in fight, flight, or freeze, and therefore we are not in the driving seat. We are in automatic pilot in order to protect ourselves. Fight manifests as anger, whether it be irritation or rage. That is what we demonstrate. Flight, avoidancy, running away, putting our head in the sand. And freeze is just shutting down, just not reacting, going externally numb. None of these are functional habits. None of these are ways that we want to interact with friends, family, loved ones, right? And yet, when we are being dishonest and acting from a place of fear, that is how we are conducting ourselves. So the idea of being free from fear, which is where the superpower comes in, I just would like you to think for a second how different life would be if you were free from fear. How different relationships might be, how brighter things would be, everyone knows what anxiety and fear feels like. Everyone knows what depression feels like. Everyone knows what fear feels like. And how nice it is to not have to feel that. But actually, not feeling the fear comes from being able to be brave enough to practice honesty. In the practicing of the honesty, we find out that the things that we were afraid of weren't actually true. And in uncovering the fact that they're not actually true, do we then go on to learn new things? We learn to actually, we enter the unknown. We get to adventure into the unknown. So I want to touch on the different degrees of honesty, right? Because like I said, there's self-honesty, there's conscious honesty, there's subconscious honesty. What I'm really talking about pioneering is that deep subconscious honesty. And this only really comes from some sort of therapeutic dynamic, whether it's with a trusted individual or whether it's with a therapist in some way, shape or form. So, yeah, adventuring into the unknown. Because when we learn that the things we're afraid of, the things that stop us, the things that make us lie or be dishonest or act dishonestly, when we realize that the things that we're afraid of happening aren't in fact true, it allows us to take more risks. It allows us to be much more innovative. It allows us to go and step into the world away from the comfort of the campfire. And this is where adventure happens. And this is where life gets interesting. This is where life gets exciting. And it doesn't need to be adventure in the sense of heading off into the wilderness and there being danger and pirates and whitewater rapids. It could be just getting much, much deeper with one's romantic partner. It could be reaching new depths together of intimacy that you didn't know possible. It could be joys of parenting that you didn't, that you know, that you weren't even aware of, or it could be friendships or career paths that one ends up becoming particularly excited about. And that's where this adventuring into the unknown comes into play. I personally have experienced so many gifts through being honest. I spent most of my life in fear. I spent most of my life, one way or another, afraid of not being good enough, of being unlovable, being unworthy. And, it resulted in me being in toxic relationships. It resulted in me being in jobs and career paths where I thought I needed to be in order to be happy, in order to be worthy, in order to be well received. Okay, gifts of honesty. Gifts of honesty beyond that overarching theme of safety and trust include learning how to love and be loved. It was only through my own vulnerability that I was able to put my true, authentic self out there to be loved by someone, and for them to be able to put their authentic self back to me, for me to love them. With work, to be truly honest with myself about what my motivations are and what my passions are and what my purpose is, and to be brave enough to pursue those things only came through honesty, through being able to interact with my children in a way that wasn't from a place of fear of not being a good enough father, but from a place where I could actually do my best, know that I've done my best, acknowledge when I feel like I'm not doing enough, and being able to surrender that, and being able to not have to control all of these aspects. I believe that there is no human conflict that can't be solved with vulnerable honesty. Even in a war, if the two parties ever really came together and said to one another, we're afraid that you're going to do this, and we're afraid that you're going to do that, and they could end up meeting somehow in the middle about what they're really afraid of. I genuinely believe that all things could be solved with that level of vulnerability. I'm not going to comment on any active wars, but if people were really honest, anger is always a response to fear. Even in the political divisiveness going on, or what's going on the streets around Europe or America, people are just afraid. And if people could be honest about what they're afraid of, and real opportunities for potential resolution could happen. The gifts are countless, and they're infinite, and I'm constantly discovering new things, new freedoms. Like I said, freedom from fear being a fundamental thing. See, what I want to talk about is a little bit about how to learn, how to be honest. How to be honest. You've got to be able to hear what you're feeling and thinking. And for me, meditation plays a fundamental role in that. If I can't check in with myself and really acknowledge what I'm feeling, where I'm feeling it, and then how those feelings are driving thought patterns, I can't have the conversation with myself where I can really get to the bottom of what's going on. So step one for me is always about meditation. It's not about getting rid of the thoughts or feelings. It's just about being able to witness them. It's about being able to energetically feel, am I feeling tension in my chest? Am I feeling sick in my stomach? Am I feeling, do I have something? Is it in my head? Where am I feeling the feelings? What are the thoughts then attached to them? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Is it threat? Is it not enoughness? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it embarrassment? Is it humiliation? What is going on? And then to be able to witness the narratives that I'm telling myself that, it's because of X, Y, and Z happening. It's never because of X, Y, and Z happening, but That's how my mind tries to justify the fear that I'm feeling in my body. From there, I get to start looking at the repeating thought patterns. So I'm going to give you an example, because the next phase is the sort of self-analysis of the situation. And I do this by asking myself a series of questions, because it's usually some form of resentment I have that is driving the insecurity or the fear. If I am in anger, it means that I am afraid. So like I touched on, if I am in anger, it means that my parasympathetic nervous system is overreacting and it feels that I am under threat in some way, which means that I am in fear. So I need to understand what exactly it is I'm afraid of. So the first question I ask myself is, who or what do I resent right now? Question number 2 is why. Why do I resent them or it? 3, how do I feel that they should have acted differently? How do I feel that this situation should be different? 4 is, have I been dishonest in this resentment in any way? Have I lied, or have I not told the truth around it, or is there something that I haven't acknowledged? And then I ask, what feelings am I trying to suppress? And then I ask what feelings I'm trying to suppress. What am I not acknowledging that I'm really feeling in this resentment? And then finally, I ask myself, what part do I actually have to play in this resentment? And in doing so, I get clarity. So let's use an example, something particularly vulnerable from my past. When I was, I think, maybe 22 or 23, my friend and I went to watch our football team play a Champions League match in Europe, in France, in Bordeaux. And we thought, because it was in France and in Bordeaux, this would be a good opportunity to take with us our wives and girlfriends. They were girlfriends at the time. This is my ex-wife at the time. And that we could, we would take them and we'd go and have a nice meal out. And then, the next day, like, we could go and watch the match and the girls could go and do whatever they wanted to do, being in Bordeaux. And so my friend and I, we did this. We organised this trip, and the first night we got there, we took them to this really nice Michelin-starred restaurant. We were dressed up quite smartly, not like we would normally be when we were on football away days, and wearing jackets and whatnot. And we went to this nice restaurant. And after the restaurant, we went and had a load of drinks somewhere. This was when I did drink. And then we thought it would be a good idea, my friend and I, to go and find a pub where all of the football fans were going to be, because that would be fun to, have a sing-song or whatever it was we were planning on doing. I don't know what our logic was in taking our girlfriends after a nice meal to a pub full of football hooligans on a Champions League away day. I'm not sure what the logic was. It was ridiculous, but we did it. And whilst we were at this pub, this bar in Bordeaux, it was very rowdy and there was singing and, we would have been, I would have definitely been very loud and obnoxious, as I was when I was younger. And on the way out, what happened was, one of these football fans, who was really drunk, came up and sort of pushed me aside and put his arm around my girlfriend and said, she's coming home with me. Something like that. And I instantly froze. My friend didn't. He immediately squared up to this guy, pushed him away, did the manly thing in my eyes. And then this guy's this football hooligan, this football fan's friend came out. I don't know, he may have been a hooligan. He was just a drunk football fan. But his friend came out and then sort of like apologized, took him inside. And that was the end of that. except that I froze, and my pride for years was unbelievably hurt by this. Later that night, I do remember my girlfriend at the time saying to me that I should have done something. I remember thinking, I wish I had done. I wish I had thrown a punch, even if I'd got the shit kicked out of me. I remember thinking I wish I had done anything other than freeze, in a way that I felt like a coward. I felt like a coward. And for years and years, this resentment played out in my life, in my mind. This fear. I don't know. What was the fear? Was it of getting beaten up? Maybe, yes. I mean, I've got some deeper rooted therapeutic stuff that I won't share on this episode about, being left and that not being good enough, and that perhaps, my girlfriend did just want to leave with a stronger, more manly man. There's all sorts of stuff like that I could go into, which I won't now. But for years, this played on my mind, that I wish I'd just been brave, that I wish I'd just been manly. And it hurts. Hurt a lot. It was like case evidence of why I wasn't enough, case evidence why I was weak. And anyway, eventually I reached the point on this journey of transformation that I've been on the last 6.5 years, where I got to explore this resentment, this person who I resented for making me feel so less than. And so what did that look like? So who do I resent? This football fan. Why? Because he insulted me in front of my friend and my girlfriend and whoever else was there. He made me look like a joke. He showed me no respect. In fact, he made me look pathetic. And he made me react in a way that made me feel like a coward and pathetic, and put me in a situation where I wish I had acted differently in order to feel more manly. I could go on. It's a lot. Okay, have I been dishonest in this resentment? No, not really. Not to my knowledge. I didn't actively lie or cheat, but there is dishonesty coming, but it's not in the obvious way. So what feelings am I suppressing in this resentment? If I'm angry, what am I afraid of? Well, I already don't feel enough. So I suppose I don't feel enough. I don't feel lovable. I don't feel manly enough. I feel cowardly. And this is case evidence that those things could in fact be true, or in my eyes are true. And that fear of just being not enough is absolutely profound. And that's the feelings. So it's not that I'm angry at this person. I mean, he wouldn't have remembered anyway. I mean, you're so drunk. It's not something that he's losing sleep over, but I've thought about it for years and years. But why? Not because of the thing that happened. I mean, I'm not even with that woman anymore anyway. Like, it's so irrelevant, one would argue, but it plays directly to my fear of not being enough. Okay. So then what's the last question? The last question is, what part did I play? And this is where it gets interesting. And it was only through working with my sponsor, with my trusted mentor, that I could come to understand this, and that I had the humility and the willingness to be able to see it this way. But I did have a huge part to play in this resentment. Why did I go to this bar? Why? What was my motivation to go there? What did I think was going? What did I think? What did I think was going to happen? And how did I behave? I mean, I was there, dressed in a blazer with, my girlfriend, wearing a nice dress, and my friend and his girlfriend wearing nice dresses. Like, why was I? Why was I compelled to go there? And then how was I behaving when I was there? Was I subdued? Was I being sort of keeping myself to myself? No, I would have been singing and chanting and drinking beer and doing shots and causing general mayhem and bringing a lot of attention to myself. And subsequently a lot of attention to my girlfriend. And one would argue that I should be able to go anywhere with my girlfriend without a threat. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But nevertheless, I was still doing what I did. Now, that's not the thing that's not the issue. The issue is, why did I do that? This is where I need to get really honest with myself. And the reason why is that I was insecure. One of the ways that my insecurity manifested itself is through arrogance, through thinking I am better than I am, through putting other people down, perhaps, by behaving arrogantly. Thinking that I can just, turn up and be one of the lads having come from this restaurant all dressed up, and that's okay. And I didn't know people. I didn't know anyone there. It was an arrogant play on my part, and it's like, okay, so yes, I can resent this person for behaving the way they did. In some ways say that's justifiable. And I could also resent myself, I suppose, for how I acted and behaved. And I can resent the situation for how it played out. I could even resent my girlfriend at the time for reacting in a way and even saying to me later that evening that I should have done something. But the truth is, had I have not acted from a place of insecurity and fear and arrogance, then it wouldn't have happened. If I hadn't felt compelled to put us in that situation, if I hadn't felt compelled to behave the way I behaved and draw the attention that I drew, it wouldn't have happened. And I did that from a place of insecurity, right? It doesn't matter, you see, whether I should have been able to do it or not. The fact is I did. Why did I? What were my motivations to act in the way I did? And they were insecurity. And in being able to see that, not only can I let go of that resentment, not only can I forgive myself for everything, my part in it all, but I also get to not act like that anymore. I get to know that when I'm feeling insecure and I'm feeling arrogant, if I feel that I'm better or worse than anyone else, that's me acting from a place of ego, a place of fear. And that leads to, for me, suffering, situations that I don't want to be in. And I get to not do that. I get to not act on those things. So it's very, very powerful. If you imagine how many resentments that we carry, and to be able to follow that process and then to see where the patterns are, to see how fear has played such a fundamental part in my life time and time again, and that actually the situations I seem to consistently find myself in, there is a pattern and it is rooted to fear, I get to stop doing that. And this is where real transformation unfolds. And this is the real power of honesty, is the ability to enact this freeing transformation. And then I get to act from a place of principle. Instead of acting from fear, I get to act from a place of love, of kindness. I get to live from a place of truth. I get to interact with people from a place of truth. And again, this is where that adventure unfolds. So this is a theme that I want to really, this for me, this idea of honesty, this idea of truth and honesty as a superpower, this is a huge theme for me that I want to really bring to the world in as many ways as I can. And so it will be something I will likely revisit in various different capacities, and the sharing of the honesty formula, the way that we learn to be able to practice honesty on the fly. This is the thing, to be able to feel a feeling, to maybe feel angry or impatient or intolerant, and then to be able to very quickly check in with myself and run through that process means that I don't have to react. It means that I am in control. I become more of the man that I was meant to be, because I don't have to act on impulse anymore. And this practice is really quite beautiful. So lots more to share on it. But I think as a starter, an introduction, if you like, to truth as a superpower, radical honesty and how to get it. I hope that there's something in there and it sparks some curiosity and interest. But until next time, thanks. Thanks for listening to Learning How to Live. If this sparked something for you, share it, subscribe, and remember, you don't have to escape your life. You can build one worth staying for.